Welcome to Elevation Solo. I'm Erica Taylor, and I am excited about you joining me on this journey. This journey is about mindset shift and about ridding ourselves of that saboteur mindset. If you haven't had a chance to review the last video, go ahead and check that out. But we're going to get started today with 5 ways in which we can unfreeze ourselves in relationships. Now, as someone who has been divorced for several years, and I have 2 adult children, I've had my own share of experiences. So through this particular journey, we're going to talk about how to become our better version of ourselves. Because ladies, there's nothing wrong with us. That's the beauty about self-exploration and about our journey of development and our framework for being better, is that we can start wherever we are. So if you feel like, I'm not sure I have all it together, I don't have the tools, I feel like I'm missing something, that's okay. This channel is for you. If you feel like you have been a single person for a number of years and your relationships need a little bit of work, but most importantly, that work is inner, this channel is also for you. And if you are a divorced mother and you have children and you also are a single parent, this channel is also for you. So as you can see, ladies, this channel is for all women from all experiences. And what I'm hoping that we will do together is that we'll build a community. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing about freezing. Yeah, freezing. Not the cold Arctic air that a lot of us have experienced, but it's about the fact that we become emotionally immature in our relationships. Now hold on with me for you get upset about it. But sometimes what happens is we as ladies tend to shut down. And we don't say what we really want to say sometimes. And sometimes we say what we want to say. So those are examples of freezing. Now, in order for us to do this, the first part of this about freezing is that we have to look at ourselves where we are. So that is very important for us to assess where we are so that we know where we're going. Now, how does all this happen? How did I become frozen, if you will, right? Not like it's like something that we want to talk about, but let me explain. Sometimes freezing comes from, guess what? Our childhood. Yes, our childhood. It depends on the proximity and where we are in our family structure. If you were the oldest and you always took accountability and you're always responsible, that is who you are. That is your character makeup. And I can bet that you still do it today. I'm that person. I will tell you, I feel like I gotta fix everything. I feel like I gotta resolve everything. I feel like I gotta take on things that really aren't for me. And I'm gonna tell you, I've started to do the work. So I've learned how to set boundaries for myself and with others. And I'm telling you, it's scary because sometimes people are not used to you saying no, or they're not used to you jumping in. So when you do that, they're expecting for you to go ahead and do it. So they sit, they wait like a clock. And they wait, and they wait, and they wait. You get the point. So what I'm telling you is, if that is you, that is important. It is very important for you to take an inventory of how you show up in your relationships. Now, getting back to this family dynamic, right? Maybe you were the quiet one, the youngest, and you got all the attention that you could possibly have. Maybe you were able to jump in and say whatever you wanted to say in your family dynamic, and you didn't feel like someone was kind of squishing your thoughts or opinions or ideas. So this is how all of this happens with freezing. If this sounds like you, go ahead and put in the chat your experience. You don't have to put too much personal stuff, but just an example of, how you feel like you're frozen in your relationships. Now, as we probably have heard, right, that in order for us to become better and more enriched about ourselves, we have to understand who we were when we were younger. And so sometimes, ladies, we've had some unsettling situations. We have grown up in an environment that was less than appetizing for us, or less than enriching, or maybe even safe. right? And so I'm not a therapist, so I'll say that, and I'm not an expert, but I have gone through some experiences and I do know what that feels like. So when you are younger, you are taking on those things that have occurred. And when you become older, you have the relationships that show up in this result. So what happens is, let me give you an example. Let's say you're in a relationship, right? And you have something to say, but something happens where you kind of do a switch. Now it's very subtle. And you don't say what you want to say, or you say everything you want to say without a filter. This is an example of freezing. So it's very important for us to take an inventory of that, because in order for us to become better and to unfreeze ourselves, we have to have an inventory of how we were when we are younger. So this takes a little bit of work, takes a little bit of introspection. You may want to ask somebody some questions, and that's what we're going to do on this channel. One of the things I'm not going to do, and I don't want to do, because I hate when people do it to me, right, is I want to be able to give us tools and resources so that we can become better, but also we can share this with others that may feel like they can benefit. Now, once we've done that, we've assessed where we are. This is very important. It's the A word. Anybody have a guess? What? I'll say it. It's accountability. So accountability is recognizing when you are actually exhibiting that same behavior, that same reaction, and that same pattern. And so it takes a little bit of time. The beauty about this is, let's say this. You can be 10 steps ahead for a week, 2 weeks, right? And then a situation occurs that you tap into that moves you back 2 or 3 or maybe 5 or 6 steps. One of the things about this journey is we're going to practice being patient, giving ourselves grace, because the only way that we can do quality work on ourselves, not to say anything is wrong with us, but we always want to be better, right? We're strong, we're resilient, we're courageous. These things are so important. So in order for us to be able to do that, we have to be honest. Now, along with that is how many of us, and I know I tend to do this, sometimes we do the self-limiting thoughts. Maybe there's something that happened. Maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's just the words that you go to. You heard people just say, oh my gosh, I did something stupid today. Or I'm so stupid. Oh, why did I not know that? Oh my goodness. And so we're so used to using these words, and they govern who we are. So what we have to do is, I got a little homework for you. You probably don't want it, but hey, that's how I became better and more self-aware of who I was and how I was showing up. So find out, what are those self-limiting thoughts that you say to yourselves? And then I guarantee you that if you use it for yourself, you say it to yourself, you probably say it to others. So pay attention to that too, because that's so important. And honest feedback is powerful, right? It's a level of acceptance, right? In order for us to become better, to become the model that we want to be, not that we want to be like somebody else, we want to be ourselves. We have to honor ourselves in a positive way. And then the final thing about this is, I'm going to say, is that we have to recognize our worth. Ladies, we are good, regardless of the situation that we're in. Our goal is to become better, to become more self-improved, to elevate ourselves. And elevation as a solo person is not necessarily a material thing. Elevation is when I have a good mindset, I can walk into a room and the room will reach out for me. We walk with confidence. We hold our head high, not in a lofty, not in a I'm better than you way, but in a way that honors who we are. So find where that special honoring is so that you can use that in your personal and your professional relationships. So how did I start all of this? Covering all of this. So I want to tell you this, and if you've already still kind of understanding about this freezing side of this and looking at some things, and some of these things have really echoed with you, what is important for you to know is I am not an expert, but I had to do an assessment of myself. And honestly, ladies, People don't like to say this. I didn't like who I was. I was sometimes controlling. I was sometimes demanding. I was also very ambitious. And then I started to say, you know what? This isn't working for me because I need to be better, not only for myself, but for other people that I'm around. So that's where the boundaries came in, where I stopped trying to jump in to save the day and save myself. I started to be intentional about self-care and taking that into control. You know, we make time for everything else in our lives, but we don't take the time to nurture ourselves in a way that makes us feel good. Tapping into those hobbies that maybe you have been talking about for years, those things that you know you love, it's passion for you. And I really feel like those things that really make you happy and whole are the things that we should chase after, not the things that deplete our energy. And that involves relationships. If you have experienced, like myself, people who drain your energy and do something to your nervous system, that's your cue. So, with that in mind, these are some ways in which you can unfreeze yourself. These are just my examples. I'm curious to know what your examples are too. So we are going to do the work, ladies, and please know this is going to be a great adventure for us because we're all going to learn together. We're all going to share about our experiences, and we're going to talk about our successes as well, right? Because if we can't talk about our successes, how do we know we're doing well? And I want you to know that we are okay through this whole entire journey. Elevation Solo is a mindset. It's a paradigm shift. It's an ability to bring out the best in ourselves and others. So, if there is some things we want to work on, maybe we have a little bit of some bitterness, some sadness sometimes, or we have the why is this happening to me? Why me again? We need to look at that because that's not an elevation mindset. Now, I'm going to tell you that some of us, the beauty about this is that we're all not going to be on the same trajectory. There are things that we all have that we're working on, and there's things that we want to kind of add and take away. So it's kind of like a board, if you will. So there's things you're going to add to your list of becoming better about unfreezing yourself. And then there's things that you say, you know what, that doesn't work for me anymore. And I'm going to be very intentional about releasing that. So I am super excited about this information and this journey, and I look forward to kind of building a partnership with you and a community. I want to also leave you with this. Please know that you have the power. We have the power to become better, to become more courageous, to think differently, to do things in a positive way, to treat ourselves with the care that we need. Well, ladies, I will talk to you again. Have a wonderful time on this journey, Elevation Solo.